Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Eugene and this channel is dedicated to teaching of programming and software development. In the previous lesson, we learned about variables and data types. This is the fourth Programming Fundamentals lesson in which we are going to walk over a few basic rules of the C# language and learn about user input and output. First, let's talk about a few basic syntactic rules. Every command in C# ends with a semicolon. This tells the compiler where the command finishes when translating the program for execution. A command can take more than one line. This is actually a consequence of the previous rule, since until you add a semicolon, you are actually writing the same command. As you can see, we defined a variable named fullName, which takes two lines. Notice that the first line doesn't have a semicolon, so it continues to the next line until the semicolon there. The next rule is that C# is case sensitive. This means that these two variables that you see are two different ones actually. Two more rules are related to comments, and the first one is that a line starting with two slashes is a comment, which means that the compiler ignores everything written to the right of the slashes when compiling the program. Notice that the comment doesn't have to start from the beginning of the line. It can start actually at any point, which means you can write a command and following you can add a comment explaining something, for example. And the next rule is related to multi-line comments. So we can add multiple lines of comments by adding a slash and an asterisk in the beginning of the comment and an asterisk and a slash in the end of the comment, and opening and closing. Everything between those symbols will be ignored by the compiler. We'll learn more rules of the language, but these are just a few you will need in the beginning. Now, let's talk about user output. User output can be in different forms. It can be in the form of console print lines, in the form of images, graphics, and so on. The purpose of user output is to tell the user what we want from him as well as to show some results. Later we'll see how we do it in C#. Now let's talk a little about user input. So user input can also be in different forms. It can be a text that the user types using the keyboard. It can be tap on a mobile phone, a video camera, and much more. The purpose of user input is to get the data that the program needs in order to work. Now let's go to VS Code and see how we can work with both user input and output. Now we are in VS Code, and I already created a console app in which we are going to do our experiments. If you don't know how to create a console app, you can watch my second lesson in which I explained how to do it. First, let's see how we output something to the console. So, as you've already seen, we have a class, even though we didn't learn about classes yet, but I'll call it in the correct name. So the class is named console, and it has actually two methods for writing to the console. And the first one that I'd like to show you is the method write. So we can use write to print something to the console. For example, let's print hello. Now I'm running it. Alright, as you can see, hello is printed. Now let's print another word. This time I'm going to print my name is Eugene. Now, if I run this, you'll see that both commands are printed. Both strings are printed in the same line, which is not always what we want. So the write command prints without adding a new line in the end. Now, what if we do want to add a new line? So we have multiple options. The first option is to add a \r\n in the end of the first write command, and this will print a new line. So let's run this. As you can see, it works. But it has a problem, actually. As you know, .NET is a cross-platform framework, which means it can run on Windows, on Mac, on Linux, and we want our program to be able to run correctly on every platform. The problem with this is that \r\n works on Windows, while on Linux or Mac, for example, we need to add a \n without \r. To solve this, there is a class in C# named environment, like this, environment, that has a property of new line. Now, when you add a new line like this, C# will add the correct, or more precisely, .NET will add the correct symbol in every platform. So this way, our program will run correctly on Windows, on Mac, and on Linux. Now let's run this. As you can see, again, you see that hello, my name is Eugene is printed in separate lines. Okay, but as you can imagine, this operation is very common. Very often we want to print something and to add a new line. So for this, we have a separate command in C# named writeLine. So we can do something like this: console writeLine, and here we can just type hello, and then again console write. This is the second line. Now let's run this. All right, as you can see, first, after we printed my name is Eugene, we didn't add a new line, so hello is printed right after. So just to make it look better, let's add a new line here as well. And now, as you can see, this hello is printed, and after it, a new line starts. So actually, WriteLine just does what write does, but it adds an environment new line in the end. So it just makes our lives a little easier. Usually, when we print lines to the console, we usually use WriteLine because it's much more convenient. Now let's talk about user input. If we want to get something from the user, we will need to use again the console class since we are working in a console app. And this time we will use another method. We are going to use a method named readLine, which reads a line from the console and returns it as a string. So we can store it in a string variable. For example, let's store it in a variable named name. Let's try to run it. Now, as you can see, the program is waiting for us to type something and press enter. So I can type my name and press enter. Now, once I pressed enter, the line is read and returned to the name variable. Now, before reading something from the console, let's ask the user for what we want from him. So I'm going to add everything here to a comment. For this, I will do something like this. I will add a multi-line comment. And now I'm going to add a WriteLine command. WriteLine. Let's ask the user for his name. What's your name? All right, let's run again. Okay, so we are asked about our name, and Eugene, and the program ends. All right. Now, let's make sure that the name is really read from the console. So I'm going to print the name, console, WriteLine name. Now let's run this again. As you can see, after I pressed enter, my name was printed again. Of course, we can add anything to this line, but I just didn't want to make it more complicated since we didn't learn about string concatenation, so let's keep it like this for now. Now, what if we want to get a number, for example, from the user? For example, we would like to ask him for his age. So let's type console, WriteLine, and again, let's ask the user for his age. What's your age? Now, as I already explained, readLine reads from the console and returns what it read as a string. But age is not a string, it's an int. So what we would like to do is int age console read line. And what's the problem with this? The problem is that a readLine returns a string, and it can't be converted to int, at least not implicitly. So what we need to do, we need to convert the result to an int. For this, we have another class named convert, which we can use to convert the string to an integer number. To int 32, and we'll give it what it read from the console. I know that we didn't learn about classes yet and about methods and passing arguments to methods, but for now, you just need to understand that in order to read a number, we need to convert it using the convert class to an int. Later, we'll learn everything, and you will understand every line and every keyword here. So right now, what we did, we first read a line, and we gave it to the toInt method. What toInt32 does, it gets the string and converts it to an integer. And then we assign the integer to the age variable. Now let's print the age that we just converted. All right. Let's run the program. Okay, it first asks us for our name because we have it before. All right. And then it's going to ask us about our age. I'm going to type my age. And as you can see, it's printing it. All right. Now, in addition to the toInt32 method, convert has many other methods. And for example, it has a method of toDouble, which you can use if you read a floating point number from the console. Then in such a case, you can use this method. If you use toDouble, you will need to assign the result to a double variable. Let's try it. Let's ask the user to type a floating point number. Then we are going to read the number and convert it to double. Floating point number. And then we are going to print it. All right, let's run this. Okay, again, what's your name? Eugene, your age 39, and then type a floating point number. I'm going to type 1.345. As you can see, the same number is printed. This means that it was converted from a string to double and then printed. Today we had a short lesson in which we learned some basic C# rules as well as user input and output. Thank you for watching and see you in the next lesson.